Hey everyone, Jamesic here with another gameplay video for you today. On the left we have Raoul running his Han Chewie deck. He has regular Han, Elite Chewie, and Jakku is the battlefield. His deck is very interesting. It runs second chances and ammo belts as expected, but because Chewie has 12 health, Han has 10, and the ambush giving Han more shields, this deck really lives a long time. Unlike some of the other decks that keep Maz alive with second chance, or Han Rey where you can keep Han alive with second chance, this really is more of a fortress deck. It really can keep Chewie alive or Han alive for a very long time, and you're not going to go through 12 health on Chewie or 10 health on Han ever. You're going to go through at least 30 health in this deck almost every time, if not far more than that. Because Jakku is the battlefield, you can just keep cycling those second chances. Ascension Gun lets you activate Jakku even if it's not the selected battlefield. And so a 27 health Chewie is not that surprising in a game. And Han, if you do not have something like Vibro Knife to get through the shields, it can really add up. You can have to do 15 damage to Han. And so now if you have to do 27 to Chewie, 15 to Han, that adds up to be quite a bit. That's over 40 health on the board, and that can just be absolutely absurd to get through. Not to mention that you have to try and chain a bunch of damage through in a specific sequence to get around second chance to try and kill him in a single round. It has to be 2 sets of 5, which isn't always easy to do. On the right, I'm running Luke Rey, of course, Elite Luke, regular Rey. My battlefield is Secret Facility, and this is a slightly out-of-date version of this deck. This video was filmed a couple weeks ago, but I did want to still show you guys the flow of this deck. There's just a few changes that have been made, and I did post an article the other day that does give you my most up-to-date version. At this point, I was still running lightsabers and binds all things, and I still did not have 2 force speeds. So I did swap the lightsabers for light bows. I did drop Destiny for another force speed, and then I did swap in force misdirection for it binds all things. But there you can see I drop a Vibro Knife right away, and actually use the second action to roll Rey in, but it is very common for me, if I don't have a force speed on Rey, to roll Luke in first and gain the options of having 1 extra action. If I roll 2 damage sides, resolve 4 to 6 damage right away. If I have my allies the force in hand, try and get that off on the 3 damage side before you can remove it, and then resolve it because of the ambush, or maybe just play Synchronicity and try and bait out an Electroshock, or bait out Loth Cat and Mouse like you see here. And there you can see Rel is using that Smuggling Freighter for great value, removing a pretty inconsequential die to remove one of Luke's. And I'm going to discard Destiny right there, and I really like it as a utility card. You can surprise out some low-cost events. I never have ever used Destiny to remove a lot of damage to play something like One with the Force. The only time I could see that being really necessary is if Rey has 9 damage on her, and I really want to get that One with the Force out. And there you can see I discard a lightsaber to reroll Rey's dice. I should have rerolled both. Rey does not have much consistency trying to activate that modifier side. But I do make him discard. He only has 2 cards left, and so I thought that would be a good value here to try and make sure that he can't get some rerolls. As you're about to see, he didn't really need it there. Han is at 2 damage from the Synchronicity earlier, but no other dice got resolved for damage here. And that's really rough on turn 1, especially as you can see here. He's about to do 5 to Luke. The 2 melee from Chewie, gain the resource, and then do 3 for 1. I do pop the lightsaber back on top. What I was talking about earlier, adding that value, I've already discarded it once, just putting it back in my hand. Maybe I'll play it, maybe I won't, but at the very least, I'm cycling through cards for rerolls without having to whittle my deck down, which can happen very quickly. And so the thing about Raul's deck is, and really any second chance deck, is even when you are caught up, you're behind. The only time you are not going to be behind is if they have not redrawn second chance or have never seen it. If it's the bottom 2 cards in their deck, you might just win before they can see them. But if they get any early, and as we can see here, Raul is holding one, I'm going to be behind until I'm a character ahead. And then when he's caught up on characters, I'm behind once again if he can just keep getting those second chances out. So there I roll Luke in, and he just unpredictables right away, and with that fast hands on Chewie, he can use this ambush here to roll Chewie in and hopefully get some damage off before I can remove it. So he is going to resolve that 2 for 1, taking Luke below half health, at pretty close to the top of round 2. And that can be really scary here. I gotta start doing some damage here, because if he gets Luke down before I do much more damage to Han, I don't think there's a way I can come back from that. Luke has the burst in this deck, and Chewie just is so consistent that even if Han dies early, it can be really tough to stay alive with that just whittling down from Chewie. I did get the high ground off. I do really like that card. I think it has a lot of value, but the downside to it is because you have to control the battlefield, it can become very difficult to activate. And so I'm only running it as a one-off. I think that's the right amount. I do run it as a two-off in Palpatine. I think that's a very good deck for two of them because you're so quick and you're claiming so often. And there you can see I do get Han down to 7 damage. So like I said, I've now caught up in damage, but I'm still behind. If he does not play anything else this turn, he could drop that second chance right away next turn, heal Han back up to 5 unless I kill him this round. And so that could really hurt. He does drop the jetpack on there instead, though. And I do discard guard to reroll here. And I get the +2 side, which is pretty good, so hopefully I can get the 3 damage to kill Han off. But as you can see, I discarded guard, and the thing about Luke Ray is you're going to have to make tough decisions like that sometimes. You are going to have to get to a point where you have to discard a card that could be hugely beneficial to you, but luckily there's so many other cards that have a lot of value in the deck that it really can pay off to make some risky discards and try and get ahead in the game, because your next hand is likely going to have almost as much value in it. And you can see the fast hands from Han actually got Luke down to only 3 health left, and so I really need to try and get Han down, so I do discard the second guard, and that does let me get Han down this turn unless he has removal in his last card, which we know is a second chance. So I'm actually safe here to kill Han and make it so no one dice result from Chewie can kill Luke, and so that's going to put me in a much more comfortable position. So we're all looking at the board trying to decide if there's anything he can do. I don't have any resources though, so that Disrupt is not going to do anything. And so I do take Han down there. And so now it is Luke Ray versus just Chewie. And so it's a pretty comfortable position for me, but once again, if Luke goes down, I might just not have the burst to be able to kill Chewie, especially if he's just chaining those second chances. But we can see here just how powerful Vibro Knife is against Han, possibly a little bit too powerful against Han. Yet at the same time, I think it is okay right now having Vibro Knife in the meta. It may be one of those cards that may become more problematic as time goes on. Alright, so Raul's going to start his turn off with the Smuggling Freighter. That is something I have to worry about now, because if he does drop another Loth Cat Mouse, that can really hurt. And being able to enable that so easily can be difficult. I dropped the second Vibro Knife on Ray, which is really nice, and then roll Luke out. And so, not a terrible roll at all, and you can see here I'm actually going to take the resource. I'm actually holding a deflect, and so I want to be able to enable that deflect if he's going to roll one of the range sides on Chewie. And sitting on 2 resources is a little bit rough for Raul right now. He cannot get the second chance on the board right now. He doesn't really need to with only 1 damage on Chewie, though. Unpredictable, making me reroll, using those to great effect this game. He does take the resource from the freighter. So I roll Ray in, and as you can see there's quite a bit more damage. He drops the DL44. I was not expecting this. I was expecting second chance, and so I may have not actually rolled Ray out that early, and may have held on to her a little while longer to try and make sure I can get the most value out of her dice. But DL44 was just a great play from him there. He's going to take the resource right away. He rolled 3 for 1 and 2 for 1, which is great for me because I can deflect that 3 for 1 right away, do 2 more damage to Chewie, and it makes sure Luke cannot die. So we're going to have 1 more turn out of Luke. When we're at this stage in the game, Luke is almost dead. It's unlikely I'm going to get a 1 with the Force on him. I want Raul to expend as much energy as possible killing Luke, even if I'm not resolving Luke's higher damage dice, because I want to keep Ray at full health as long as possible. And there's the other synchronicity to take Chewie to 5 damage, which is starting to end up in a better position for me here. I need to get past the half damage threshold. I need to get him into the range where it will only take 1 or 2 dice to kill him, because from our vantage point we know he's holding a second chance, and it's pretty guaranteed on my end that he's going to try and get it off here pretty soon. Reroll Luke's die into a 2, do 5 more damage, and there you go. So now Chewie only has 2 health left. And that puts me in a great position, because either roll from Luke will kill him. And Rey only needs a couple dice to be able to take him out as well. And so that just puts me in a much more comfortable position. So here we go into the next round. And I'm going to start pooling some resources here pretty quickly in the next couple rounds. Rey running at 2 upgrades is a little light right now, so I'd like to get that Rey staff out of my hand as soon as possible. That also lets me start to swap in cards like One with the Force, Luke's lightsaber, using just turn resources, or that Binds All Things that has just sat there this entire game and done nothing. Binds All Things really did get dropped for 2 reasons. Luke Rey got access to 2 more upgrades that can be played just from turn resources, Vibro Knife and Makashi Training. And then the other thing is, Vibro Knife and Rey's Staff are neutral upgrades, and so they cannot be discounted with Binds All Things, so much less in the deck can be discounted that they don't do a whole lot, and they slow the game down so much that they're really hard to justify playing in a deck like Luke Rey that is trying to have the ability to race certain decks down, and while also trying to have enough cards to live through the mid-range games against some of the decks that aren't Pomaz or Palpatine. And so I did roll 3 damage, which is enough to kill Chewie, and so he is going to have to swap that DL44 for second chance. He was able to fast hands Luke to death earlier this round, but I did like that it took another round to get him down as opposed to him dying last round. And so I do the 2 damage to trigger second chance. Chewie goes down to 7 because second chance heals 5, and then I'm going to do 1 more damage with Rey's die. And so Chewie only has 4 health left, so that puts him in a much more comfortable position for me. I've gone through 1 second chance. It's possible he could draw the other. It's possible he could have the other in his hand for all I knew at this point. And then, of course, Jakku can let him pull it back. There goes the smuggling freighter in. And I'm just going to take the resource from Rey's staff. So Raul does take the resource, getting him to 3. That means he can play second chance again next round. If he has one now, he could play it now, which would be really tough for me to deal with. And so I'm just going to claim, and I put Luke's lightsaber back on top. I absolutely love Luke's lightsaber. At this point, I need more burst on Rey, so getting that onto her would be very beneficial. She's got so many damage sides that are only 1 damage or +2 that it's difficult for her to really hit through a second chance and kill a character in a single round. And there we go. There's the first damage into Rey, taking the shield off, and then Raul does drop the Ascension Gun, which is really nice. Right now, that special would allow him to resolve up to 3 damage sides, which isn't terrible, and can help him kind of close the game out quickly if he has both melee and range showing on Chewie. So there we can see right away the first time I'm using Binds All Things all game, and currently I'm sitting on 3 resources, so I do drop the Rey Staff for the Luke's lightsaber, costing me no resources, and then use Rey's ability to roll her in right away. And there you can see that burst showing up with the 3 for 1, and that would be enough to really start to put some pressure on Chewie, and I currently have enough showing on board to kill Chewie and have the resources to do so. And there we get a reversal. And so that does do 3 damage to Rey and removes the dice. However, I'm very happy to see that as opposed to the other second chance. It means that he might have a really hard time getting second chance out next round. He's likely going to have to give up that Ascension Gun. A little less damage pressure on me gives me a little bit more time to close the game out, hopefully. He's hoping to remove as much as he can, keep Chewie alive as long as absolutely possible, and just keep adding damage slowly. And there we can see 2 more damage going on Chewie. So he does only have 2 health left. Once again, really hoping to be able to close it out through 1 second chance and not 2. And that's the other fantastic thing about the Ascension Gun you see there. That focus result really does give him a lot of options here. And so he has the 2 melee side to take Rey down to 4 damage, leaving her just above half health. So, a couple more rounds of this, and Ray will just be gone. One with the Force doesn't do anything for me anymore for keeping me in the game. It just gives me a really good dice. And so there you can see he's spending the focus, and he's going to start banking some resources. So he does pop the smuggling freighter back onto his deck, and claims the 2 resources. So smuggling freighter is really interesting with that ability to pop back, because it does allow you to come back from a game where your hand and deck have been milled if you resolve one of the 2 value sides, because by putting it back in your deck, you're no longer meeting the trigger to lose at the end of the round, so you can get one more round to try and kill the characters that are milling you to death. And there you can see I'm sitting on 5 resources, quite a hefty total, and we're going to have to make a choice here on what I want to roll in, or do I want to swap and upgrade. And we're all making some discards, dropping Infamous because it doesn't really do a whole lot with Han dead. While it's nice to get Ambush, it just doesn't do a whole lot. And as you guys saw at the end of last round, he was able to drop the second chance. And so I'm going to use one of the resources to swap Vibro Knife for one with the Force. And so that's the other use of Binds All Things. And that one is actually very significant. You can see here I roll the +2, the melee, the 3 ranged, and 2 resources. And so Raul's going to have to start removing stuff pretty quickly here. Now he does still technically have 7 health left I have to get through. He removes the +2, which is definitely good at that lightsaber. And now we're going to get My Ally as the Force out. So that does 3 damage. So 1 damage is technically wasted. That does trigger second chance and take him back to 7 health. And so he's got 5 left. But with those remaining 2 resources, I am going to drop the second My Ally as the Force to close this game out. And so you guys can see how the value of the events in Luke Ray really helped close the game out. Synchronicity, saving me early game, helping keep my momentum going, and My Ally as the Force really creating the burst that is so tied to Tier 1 decks right now. A lot of people are talking about how aggressive Tier 1 is, but they also need that burst to really exist right now. And so Luke Ray has some really good access to it. I really recommend giving it a try. I absolutely love the deck. I love how it plays. I love that you have to make choices, and I love that the events finally are to a place where you choose not to play upgrades, because playing My Ally as the Force can just get you so far ahead so early that you are playing in kind of a different playstyle than before with this deck. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a comment and let me know what you think of the video, or if you really like it, give it a thumbs up. Stay tuned for more info coming soon on Store Champs, the one I ran last weekend and the one I'm going to this coming weekend at Team Covenant.